Xiao Mo, once considered the dumbest student, became #1 at school using shady tricks. He dates the smartest and richest girl at school, becoming everyone's enemy, including teachers. The story started at Lin High, a prestigious school in the city. Everyone was dismissed early today because tomorrow is the first model exam for senior high school. This is Xiao Shi, wishing Xiao Mo good luck with the exam tomorrow. This beautiful angel is Xiao Mo's girlfriend. Beside her mesmerizing beauty, she's the top student in the school year, the shareholder of Tianhong Group, and the top girl in the school. No wonder she has a band picking her up after school. Xiao Mo, on the other hand, comes from an average family and has average grades. In short, he's considered a lucky loser. While pushing his two-wheel Bugatti and wearing fake Nikes, Xiao Mo says goodbye to his girlfriend and can't wait to see her tomorrow. Just before he left the school, he overheard two bitches talking shit about his relationship. One girl asked her friend, "Why would Xiaoxi fall for such a poor schoolboy?" Her friend replied, "It's not a good match. Our boy simply put on his earphones and get the fuck out of the school premises." While riding his Bugatti back home, he was also confused and began questioning why Xiaoxi likes him. As he got home and threw himself on his single bed, he began thinking that since Xiaoxi is the first in the academy school year, he stands no chance to the same university as her because he has low grades. These thoughts made him question if he was really good enough for his queen, and wishes he could be like the hero in the novel. Suddenly, something magical happens, and some coding appears, and a voice began saying, "I sense the host's strong request." A little girl's silhouette emerges from the computer codes, making Xiao Mo very curious of what was going on. In an instant, a blinding light flashes before his eyes, prompting him to quickly protect his eyes while sitting on his bed. He didn't know what was happening. He hides his face with his hand while opening one eye, trying to see what was going on. He saw a cute little girl saying congratulations to host Xiao Mo. She added that the activation is successful. Seeing this weird being, Xiao Mo was left speechless. He jumped off the bed and hid behind the bed desk. He then questioned the little spirit who the hell she was. He tells her not to move any closer, otherwise he uses his ruler to beat her. The little spirit was annoyed and told Xiao Mo not to address the system as a thing. She revealed to him that this system is the latest high-tech product developed by Planet X. I wonder if Elon Musk has something to do with this. She added that if Xiao Mo completes tasks issued by this system, he will be rewarded accordingly. To make things clear, while smiling, she tells him that right now he's still a host candidate, not her master yet. Only when he passes the test can he truly own the system. She immediately points her finger at Xiao Mo and tells him that the system has decided on his first task. He must accomplish his goal of getting in the top 10 of his class. Hearing this, Xiao Mo denied, stating that he can only be at the top 10 bottom of the class. The little spirit tries to motivate Xiao Mo, stating that this is the goal he's been wanting to achieve no matter what. If he doesn't complete the task, the system will uninstall itself. These words shocked Xiao Mo, who questioned if she's really going to uninstall herself from him. The system replied that she's not the devil. She won't give him impossible tasks. She then points her finger covered in fire energy towards Xiao Mo and releases the fire energy that envelopes Xiao Mo's entire body. She calls it a newbie pack with temporary ability for 1 month. She then smiles and winked at Xiao Mo and tells him that how far he can go with that ability depends on how hard he's willing to work. After saying those words, the system bid farewell to Xiao Mo, then disappeared. While he was still in shock of what had just happened, a leaning system appears in front of him, showing him his stats such as name, age, and his ability. Moreover, his rank is ignorance. As he navigated through the learning system, he could not believe his eyes. He discovered that the skill he obtained from the system is called unforgettable. Xiao Mo didn't waste any time. He brought out his school books and placed them on the desk. He decided to test his new ability by reading some school notes. After reading, he closes his eyes, and the information stays right in his brain. He opens his eyes and stands up in excitement. He was astonished to find out that he can't forget everything he learns. He praises how powerful this system of learning is. At this moment, he remembers the system told him if he doesn't complete the task, it will automatically uninstall. This means he will have to continue with his shameful old life where he's branded as a loser. No. This is my chance to change my fate. I must seize it, he declares. Xiao Mo begins strategizing, Currently, it's around 2 p.m. The exam starts tomorrow at 9 a.m. To be in shape, he needs at least 3 hours of sleep. That leaves him with 14 hours of effective studies before the exam starts tomorrow. During this time, he wants to memorize thousands of original questions from 2 books, language and math. If he can do that, he believes he will be able to improve his score, not by 100, but to a total score of 600 points. The top scorer, Han Jiang, reached 650 points. If Xiao Mo can get 600 points, he'll be in the top 10 in his class. Without wasting any second, Xiao Mo begins his studies while eating dinner. He is so deep in his studying that his mom tells him to put the book aside and finish eating first, but our boy has been looking forward to this version of himself. He continues his studies in his room, but around 1 a.m., his mom enters his room and tells him to sleep now since he has an exam tomorrow. Xiao Mo didn't give up. Around 3 at night, he was still studying under his blanket. The system appears and states that in front of him, there are 1,072 candidates who failed in the end. People who do not work hard, even if you give them the strongest ability, are useless. With her arms folded, she added that only those who are willing to work hard are qualified to have her most powerful school system. The next day at school, students were getting ready to write the exam. Meanwhile, she seems worried about Xiao Mo, who had a sleepy face, because he ended up studying the whole night without closing his eyes. Xiao Mo was happy about his efforts, because he read every single question in the books, and they are all stuck in his mind. She asked him if he was confident about the exam. He confidently replied that he's going to be in the top 10 of his class this time. She was shocked to see this new confident version of her boyfriend. The rest of the class began laughing at Xiao Mo's words. He then got nervous and asked his girl if he sounded a bit braggy. She smiles with a blushing face and tells Xiao Mo that she believes in him. She says goodbye to Xiao Mo because she needed to go to her class and get ready for the exam. She then tells Xiao Mo that they should have lunch together. While Xiao Mo was waving at Shi, 2 haters began gossiping behind his back, and the whole class was laughing at him. Xiao Mo wanted to wear his earphones to avoid hearing gossip, but he thought for a second and changed his mind. He tells himself that he's going to prove to everyone that he's a perfect match for Shi. A moment later, everyone was well seated on their desks, ready to start the exam. Xiao Mo got his exam paper and immediately started going through the questions. He immediately recognized that the questions were the original questions he memorized last night. They only changed one of the numbers. The more he checks the questions, the more he realizes there's only minor changes on the exam paper. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. At this moment, his confidence increased. He does not want to get 600 points anymore. Instead, he wants to get more than 650 points. As Xiao Mo began answering questions, his teacher was observing him and surprised to see him answer that particular question so fast. As she got closer to his desk, she was surprised to see what Xiao Mo had written. 4 days later, the fat guy sitting next to Xiao Mo tried to talk down to him, asking him if he's the one who bragged too much and everyone is waiting to see his joke. Xiao Mo replied that people are just jealous of him and Shi together. That's why they're targeting him. At that moment, the hot redhead teacher enters the class, carrying the exam results. She placed the results on the table and began addressing the class, saying that the exam was just a test to show how basic students are. It was basically the same questions with a few changes. The teacher changes her tone of voice and begins shouting that she didn't expect the students to do so badly. If they don't have a sense of crisis, not many students will get into college. As the class grew quiet, she began announcing the exam results. Starting with the first bottom of the class with 357 points, Lu Yu. The list continues until the second of the class and 72nd of the grade, Han Jiang. The boy was happy at first, but then got shocked to see that he was second of the class. Everyone in the class began asking themselves how come Han was second. They wondered who was first. Before long, they realized that there was only one person who had not yet received the result. Finally, the teacher announced the first of the class and second of the grade with 702 points, Xiao Mo. Xiao Mo confidently stood up to go and receive his result, leaving every student in shock. Inside the Lin High School office, one female teacher asked her friend if he heard about Xiao Mo, the kid in class 3 who got second place in the school year. The other teacher replied that Xiao Mo has always been at the bottom of the class. How come he raised to the top so quickly? The other bald teacher overheard the conversation and began shouting that Xiao Mo must have cheated. He added that he has never seen such an exaggerated student. It's just too much. The other teacher replied that even if they leave a student who's at the bottom to look through the exam materials in the exam room, it's still going to be impossible for that student to get 700 points right away. The female teacher also agreed that if you don't have an image in your head, it's impossible to find a place to look in the book. With those words, all the three teachers widely opened their eyes and mouths in shock, while wondering if Xiao Mo is really working hard. Suddenly, one guy who seemed like the dean told all the teachers to stop talking. He instructed each teacher to write a new set of papers. Tomorrow, Xiao Mo will have a separate makeup exam. The next day at Linhai Secondary School, each student was going on about their daily life. Xiao Mo was studying and realized that his unforgettable ability started fading away. But the good thing is, he can still remember everything he has read. The boy started while praising how much his memory has improved. While he was stretching, the teacher enters the class and tells Xiao Mo to follow her to the office. As he stood up and followed the teacher, the rest of his classmates were happy, anticipating the big news of him getting caught cheating in the exam. Accompanied by a hot redhead, Xiao Mo enters the teacher's office and greets all the teachers. The dean wasted no time and got straight to the point. He informed Xiao Mo that some teachers had questioned his performance on the exam. However, others still believed in him, so he had arranged for Xiao Mo to retake the test. Concerned, Xiao Mo immediately asked if he was the only one required to retake it. The bald teacher, Mr. Luo, responded with a forced smile, assuring him that it wasn't about mistrust. Instead, he claimed the retake was an opportunity for Xiao Mo to prove himself. With that, he led Xiao Mo to his desk. However, Xiao Mo saw through the teacher's insincerity. He knew this was merely an attempt to expose him, but he quickly regained his composure. After all, he had all the knowledge of the test ingrained in his mind. He picked up the question paper and scanned through it. Within seconds, he placed the papers back on the table, ready to answer with full confidence. Meanwhile, the male teachers, who had no faith in him, stood behind him, fully expecting him to fail. Mr. Luo smirked, convinced that Xiao Mo was at a loss. They had designed new questions, ensuring he wouldn't be able to copy from any source. Xiao Mo, however, grew nervous. He hadn't cheated in the previous test, but if he failed this one, he would be wrongfully accused. Just as desperation set in, the small spirit that had started it all suddenly appeared before him. With a playful tone, it asked, "Master, did you miss me?" The system then congratulated Xiao Mo on completing his first task. Stunned, Xiao Mo simply stared at the spirit in disbelief. The bald teacher, noticing Xiao Mo's distant gaze, quickly concluded that the boy was hallucinating out of fear. Suddenly, Xiao Mo slammed his hands onto the desk, snapping out of his daze. He was finally ready to cook. Seeing his reaction, Mr. Luo warned him not to try any tricks, believing he was nothing more than a cheater. But Xiao Mo felt unstoppable, much like Light Yagami. He grabbed his pen and began answering the questions. The bald teacher, still determined to see Xiao Mo fail, watched with anticipation. He remained hopeful that this test would expose Xiao Mo as an incompetent student. However, 30 minutes later, Xiao Mo completed the chemistry section, leaving the teacher stunned. Another 30 minutes passed, and he finished the math section as well. The female teacher, curious about his work, took a look at his answers. To her astonishment, Xiao Mo had truly delivered exceptional responses. The other teachers were left speechless, while the bald teacher found himself at a complete loss for words. The dean, still in disbelief, wondered how Xiao Mo had managed to ace the test so effortlessly. Carefully, the female teacher reviewed his answers for both math and chemistry. To her amazement, there wasn't a single mistake. Xiao Mo had flawlessly completed the test, leaving everyone in utter shock. As the teachers continued to process this unexpected turn of events, Xiao Mo remained focused, answering even more questions. The bald teacher, now seething with frustration, wished he had known of Xiao Mo's true abilities beforehand. If he had, he would have made the test even more difficult, just to humble him. The physics teacher smiled confidently, assuring his colleagues that there was no need to worry. He had deliberately made the last few questions so difficult that even the top student in the competition class wouldn't be able to answer them. Hearing this, the bald teacher grinned with satisfaction, while Xiao Mo, who could clearly overhear their conversation, felt irritated by their scheming. Undeterred, Xiao Mo completed his test in less than 30 minutes and handed it over with a smile. The physics teacher assumed he had given up without even trying and smirked as he picked up the paper to read. However, as his eyes scanned through the answers, his expression changed. Every single answer was correct. The shock hit him so hard that he instinctively leaned back in disbelief. He couldn't fathom how Xiao Mo had managed to solve such complex problems in such a short time. The other two teachers, who had been so fixated on watching Xiao Mo struggle, suddenly realized that he had effortlessly completed the entire paper within the time limit. The bespectacled teacher narrowed his eyes in suspicion, wondering if Xiao Mo had really solved the problems faster than the teachers themselves. That seemed impossible. Or had he been intentionally scoring low on purpose all along? Not wanting to be outdone, the bald teacher's temper flared and demanded to know if he thought this was some kind of game. Meanwhile, Xiao Mo, who had been listening, chuckled inwardly, because to him, it really was a game. At that moment, the physics teacher rushed forward and grabbed Xiao Mo's hands, his voice filled with emotion as he asked whether he had solved the final problem by himself. Xiao Mo hesitated for a brief second before nodding with a nervous smile, calmly reminding them that he had completed the entire paper under their direct supervision, with no chance to receive outside help. The teacher let out a chuckle, admitting that he had been momentarily confused, but what truly mattered was that Xiao Mo had achieved a perfect score. His colleagues watched in stunned silence as the physics teacher, filled with excitement, declared Xiao Mo a rare genius. He insisted that it would be a huge loss if the boy didn't participate in the upcoming physics competition. Xiao Mo, however, remained indifferent. Instead, he asked if the competition would contribute to his college entrance exam points. The teacher enthusiastically confirmed that extra points would indeed be awarded. Xiao Mo then inquired whether securing second place in the academic rankings would allow him to enter any university of his choice. Without hesitation, the teacher confidently affirmed that it would. To everyone's shock, Xiao Mo immediately declined the invitation to join the competition. Then, as if nothing had happened, he casually remarked, "If there's nothing else, I'll be off." He stood up and walked out of the office, leaving the teachers in utter disbelief. It was as if he had just rewritten the laws of physics before their eyes, only to walk away like it was nothing. They stood frozen, struggling to comprehend what had just transpired. Out in the school corridors, Xiao Mo exhaled in relief. He had successfully completed the system's task and received his reward. Without it, acing the test retake would have been impossible. 3 hours earlier, when the system had appeared to him, Xiao Mo had requested his reward for completing the previous task, securing a spot in the top 10 of his class. In response, the system granted him his prize. A sudden surge of energy coursed through his body, sharpening his mind and enhancing his cognitive abilities. From that moment on, no matter how complex a question appeared, he could instantly understand it and provide the correct answer with ease. As Xiao Mo stood in the corridor, lost in deep thought, his girlfriend, Xiao Shi, noticed him and waved. His heart swelled with joy as he walked toward her, his angel. With a curious smile, he asked what had brought her to the 6th floor. Xiao Shi, appearing slightly nervous, hesitated before asking if he was all right. She had heard that he had been called to the teacher's office. Xiao Mo sighed and admitted that he had to retake the test. A brief silence followed as they simply gazed at each other. Breaking the quiet moment, Xiao Mo looked into her eyes and asked if she still believed in him, despite his sudden academic improvement. Without saying a word, Xiao Shi reached out and gently touched his face. She assured him that even if no one else in the school believed in him, she always would. She added that, although his progress seemed hard to believe, she had absolute confidence that Xiao Mo would never lie to her. Her soft, reassuring words stirred something deep within him, and his heart began to race. The couple blushed, sharing another quiet gaze. Then, with a warm smile, Xiao Shi encouraged him to maintain his grades so they could go to the same university. Excited, Xiao Mo rushed toward her, intending to hug her. But before he could, a A sharp voice interrupted them. The bald teacher, Mr. Luo, stepped in, his eyes narrowing. He accused Xiao Mo of hiding something, stating that if he truly wasn't weak, he would have joined a physics competition. Looking for trouble, he stormed toward Xiao Mo, grabbed his shoulder, and accused him of engaging in an inappropriate relationship in public. Xiao Mo was annoyed at first, but quickly calmed himself. With a composed expression, he told the teacher that he wasn't doing anything wrong. Besides, he added firmly, he was in a serious relationship. However, Mr. Luo was not done. Frustration evident in his voice, he lectured Xiao Mo, claiming that as a student, he shouldn't be involved in any relationship since it would negatively impact his studies. Xiao Mo, unfazed, asked the teacher what grade he was in. Second, came the reply. And what about Xiao Shi? First, Mr. Luo answered. Xiao Mo smirked. So, we're holding back our studies until we reach the top 2 spots in the school year. For a moment, Mr. Luo was speechless, while Xiao Shi giggled, blushing. Xiao Mo, don't talk nonsense, he scolded. I'm afraid your second place hasn't been confirmed yet. Xiao Mo's expression remained confident. He stated that the test retake had already been approved by the dean. Then, he looked directly at Mr. Luo and asked, Are you saying the dean is helping me cheat? Annoyed, Mr. Luo dismissed his words. Stop nagging. If there's nothing suspicious, then why didn't you dare to enter the physics competition? I think you're cheating. Xiao Shi's patience snapped. She stepped forward, anger flashing in her eyes, and firmly told Mr. Luo that while they respected him as a teacher, he had no right to repeatedly insult his students. Xiao Mo gently calmed her down, winking as if to say he had things under control. Turning back to Mr. Luo, he spoke in a composed tone. Mr. Luo is not unreasonable, he said, before confidently taking a walk in his Nikes. Then, he rhetorically asked whether the teacher still wanted him to participate in the physics competition. Standing in front of him, Xiao Mo declared, It's not that I can't participate. But are you willing to make a bet with me? Mr. Luo stared at him, momentarily speechless. Xiao Mo continued, If I lose, I'll do whatever you ask. But if I win first place in the competition, you'll treat our entire class to a big chicken dinner. Mr. Luo quickly did the math. If he lost, it would cost him around 1,500 yuan. Still, he couldn't help but feel puzzled by this new, confident version of Xiao Mo. To make matters worse, Xiao Mo flashed a knowing smile. You've been questioning my performance, he said. Are you now afraid to bet against me? Since Mr. Luo had a reputation for acting tough, he couldn't back down now. With a smirk, he accepted the challenge. You've got your eyes on my wallet, he muttered. That's fine. If a big meal is enough to bring out a hero, then why should I oppose it? It's a deal, he added. Both Xiao Mo and Mr. Luo exchanged a firm high five, smiling as the challenge was set. Some time passed, and the physics competition exams are over. While it was pouring heavy in the city, the students who participated in the competition are all in the school bus. They are all exhausted from the exams. Mrs. from another class was worried. In her mind, she thinks that none of the students performed well. In fact, it's true that competition isn't a strong point at Linhai Second Middle School. She's nervous because the teacher in charge, Lu Yu, took a leave of absence and sent her to be a team leader. To her, this is a sign that the school doesn't pay much attention to the competition. She's been teaching for 7 years, and she doesn't want to lose to the new teacher, Lu Yu. In her mind, she wants to do everything in her power for her students to be better than Lu Yu's students. On day 5, Xiao Mo and Xiaoxi were called in the teacher's office where all the teachers were gathered. Xiao Mo whispered in his girlfriend's ears, asking why are they the only students amongst all the teachers. Xiaoxi wonders if it's because the results of the exams were out. The director asks if everyone was present before he could let the principal share the news he had. Just then, Mrs. Li got irritated and started yelling, "You have a lot of nerve. Do you think you can ignore your teachers just because you have some grades?" She asked Xiaoxi if she was in class 3. Xiao Mo intervenes and says that they didn't do anything wrong to disrespect their teachers. What is she on about? Mrs. Li replies that it's forbidden for students to fall in love. She then pointed that Xiao Mo and Xiaoxi are holding hands together. "Do you think all the teachers here are idiots?" she questioned. You can't get along with Lu Yu, that's why you bring us here? Xiao Mo asked, shocking every teacher. Pissed, he tells Mrs. Li that she's just trying to use him as an excuse to get his teacher Lu Yu. He confidently holds Xiaoxi's hand up and admits in front of every teacher that he's in a relationship with her. Hearing this, the principal began laughing while enjoying his cup of water. Xiao Mo then pointed at the principal and told everyone that he knew about his relationship with Xiaoxi and had agreed to it. Exposed, the principal spit out the water while in shock and acts like he doesn't remember. Xiao Mo then added that the headmaster told him that if they got into the top 3 of the science competition, they'd be allowed to date. Tension grew stronger between Mrs. Li and Xiao Mo, with Xiao Mo thinking that he'll not let Mrs. Li use him as a target to get to his teacher. The director interrupted them, adding that he was also aware of Xiao Mo's relationship. Wasn't I principal? Oh, I remember, that's right. The principal replied. He then points at Xiao Mo and tells every teacher that a student as good as Xiao Mo deserves the green light in all aspects. Xiao Mo confidently stares at Mrs. Li. Now that the director and the principal are siding with him, there's no way she can use him as a stepping stone. Mrs. Li panicked and didn't know how else to confront Xiao Mo. When she was about to talk, the principal shut her down, telling her that there was something more serious he needed to talk about. Okay, she agrees while ashamed and frustrated. The principal gladly announces that our school took the top 2 places in the competition. The first place winner is Xiao Mo from Senior 3, Class 3. The teachers were so happy to hear this. In second place is Xiaoxi from Senior 3, Class 1. The 2 lovers were so happy as they looked at each other after hearing this great news. Joyous, the principal tells the teachers to give a round of applause and congratulate both Xiao Mo and Xiaoxi. All the teachers happily did that, except for Mrs. Li. She was left in a shock to hear that Xiao Mo from Class 3 took first place in the competition and not her own students. While Xiaoxi and Xiao Mo were giving each other a high five because of their hard work, Mrs. Li looks at Xiao Mo and thinks to herself that she's never heard of him before, and concluded he's definitely not taught by Lu Yu, her competition. Out of jealousy, she wishes she was the teacher of Class 3, so she'll be the one to receive congratulations. With a very angry demeanor, she asks herself why Lu Yu is so lucky and not her. Afterwards, while everyone was walking away, Mr. Luo calls Xiao Mo. This time he seemed genuinely happy as he walked towards him. Xiao Mo asked, "What can I do for you?" With a smile on his face, he hit on his pocket and tells Xiao Mo that he has the money to fulfill the promise he made to buy dinner if Xiao Mo won the first place. He confidently touches his chin and tells Xiao Mo to gather his classmates to join him for dinner at noon. Unimpressed, Xiao Mo looks at him and asks if he was serious, stating that he was just kidding when making a bet with him. Mr. Luo is persistent to fulfilling his words in order to keep his dignity as a teacher. He then holds Xiao Mo by the shoulder like a friend and happily laughs. Xiao Mo, on the other hand, was still hesitant by this new attitude of Mr. Luo. He then smiles and realized that teachers aren't about making things difficult for their students. They're just a little too eager and rigid sometimes. Back in Class 4, Mrs. Li begins shouting at her students, asking how can so many of them get such easy questions wrong? Can't you learn from Xiao Mo in Class 3? He took only 1 month and got a perfect score. Back in Xiao Mo class, learners were celebrating this great news to go out for dinner. Meanwhile, Xiao Mo is smiling, thinking that the teachers are simply worried about students' performance. Meanwhile, Mrs. Li is still ranting, telling her students to also follow the example of Xiaoxi, who took second place in the competition. In contrast, learners in Class 3 were celebrating while eating dinner. Back in Mrs. Li's class, she rhetorically questions her students if she was a bad teacher. She angrily hits the table and concludes that it's because none of them is as hardworking as Xiao Mo. Among the students, one blonde guy whispers to his friends that before the end of the lesson, he's heard about Xiao Mo a dozen times. His friend agrees with him. At the back of the class, one cool guy with gray hair wonders who Xiao Mo was. After school, while Xiao Mo was packing to exit the class, he recalled when he received the reward during the test retake. The ability he got allows him to clearly understand questions he could not understand before. Since that day, he no longer has any problem of not understanding any problem. His fatty friend notices him leaving. He stops him asking why is he leaving alone. Shocked, Xiao Mo questions why he was staying behind instead of going home as well. Fat Joe replies that their class has a basketball game against Class 1. He begs Xiao Mo to stay behind since he's the best player in Class 3. Without him, the game will be ruined. Xiao Mo, unaware of the situation, let out a nervous laugh and told Wang that he had been busy lately, which made him forget about the match. Wang, saddened by his friend's ignorance, sighed in disappointment. However, Xiao Mo, in his usual cheerful manner, playfully bumped Wang's shoulder and suggested they head to the court together to defeat their opponents. Their spirits lifted as they exited the classroom, ready for the game ahead. Meanwhile, at the basketball court, players were already warming up. As Xiao Mo arrived, his classmates were overjoyed to see him, immediately surrounding him and giving him a warm welcome. On the other side, the opposing team was not as pleased. A red-haired player named Dawei, clearly irritated, sneered at Class 3, calling them trash and mocking their abilities. With a condescending smirk, he asked if they were ready to admit defeat. Xiao Mo, casually putting on his kit, responded with a calm yet sharp remark, questioning whether they had come to play basketball or engage in a battle of words. Annoyed by Xiao Mo's confidence, Dawei forcefully bounced the ball and declared that whoever scored 50 points first would win. Wasting no time, he started the game aggressively, dribbling past the entire court with ease and scoring a quick 2 points. As he celebrated, Xiao Mo's team stood in shock, unable to react to his sudden and unstoppable attack. Xiao Mo, however, simply observed Dawei in silence until Wang nudged him with his elbow, wondering why he was just standing there. Noticing Xiao Mo's gaze, Dawei mockingly claimed that Xiao Mo looked like he had just been humiliated by his speed. Yet, Xiao Mo remained unfazed and reassured Wang not to worry. Deep in thought, Xiao Mo analyzed Dawei's dribbling technique and breakthrough movements. It reminded him of the feeling he had when solving complex problems in class, an inspiration and integration of knowledge. As he pondered, he began to understand the key to improving those movements. Not only did he identify the flaws in Dawei's dribbling habits, but he also saw a way to refine them. A realization struck him. His ability to process information from the school system was just as effective for basketball. As the game continued, Dawei aggressively stole the ball from one of Xiao Mo's teammates, his overconfidence making him mock Class 3's poor performance. Just as he was about to advance, Xiao Mo suddenly appeared in front of him, smiling. In a swift motion, he snatched the ball from Dawei's grip before the latter could react. Dawei stood frozen, unable to comprehend how Xiao Mo had moved so quickly. Without hesitation, Xiao Mo sprinted toward the basket, effortlessly executing Dawei's signature jump shot. The ball sailed through the air and landed perfectly in the net. Wang watched in disbelief, his eyes widening as he realized that Xiao Mo had just replicated Dawei's move flawlessly. What astonished him even more was that Xiao Mo performed it with greater speed and power. The entire team was left speechless, marveling at how Xiao Mo had observed Dawei's technique only once yet managed to replicate it even better. Cheers erupted from his teammates as they celebrated his incredible display of skill. On the other hand, Dawei was furious. He turned his frustration toward his own team, angrily calling them losers for standing idly by while Xiao Mo scored. His teammates reminded him that he had been the one who lost the ball to Xiao Mo in the first place. Frustrated, Dawei stepped onto the court, determined to turn the game around. He warned Class 3 not to get overconfident. The game had only just begun. However, Xiao Mo simply smiled and responded that Dawei had no idea. The game was already over. As time passed, one by one, every player on the opposing team collapsed to the ground, exhausted. The only one still standing was Xiao Mo, holding the basketball. The scoreboard displayed a staggering 47-2. He realized he had gone too far. His opponents had stopped resisting entirely. Seeing this as the perfect opportunity to test his limits, closing his eyes, he analyzed the wind direction, noting that it was blowing from the southwest. With that information, he made his decision. If the school system was as accurate as it is for academic tests, his calculations should ensure a perfect shot. Raising the ball high, he prepared to take the shot. Dawei watched in shock. Xiao Mo was attempting to score from a position nearly 3 steps behind the three-point line. The moment Xiao Mo released the ball, the court fell into silence. The ball soared through the air and swished cleanly through the net. Everyone stood frozen in disbelief. The sheer skill he had just displayed left the entire court speechless. As Xiao Mo walked past Dawei, he casually remarked, "That's the level." He added that instead of wasting time playing the entire game, Dawei should just take shots with him next time. The following day, while others played basketball, Dawei was passing by, still embarrassed by his humiliating defeat. He muttered to himself that it was all Xiao Mo's fault. He wasn't in the mood to play today because of him. Meanwhile, the crowd on the court erupted with excitement. A player was showcasing exceptional skills, drawing everyone's attention, even Dawei's. 2 students nearby discussed the match, one exclaiming that the player had just scored 100 points. The other nodded, stating that it was expected from Xiao, the god of basketball. He was truly unstoppable. Xiao, noticing Dawei passing by, called out and asked if he wanted to join the game. Still sulking from yesterday's loss, Dawei declined, insisting he wasn't in the mood. Xiao's expression turned cold as he questioned whether it was true that Dawei had allowed himself to be defeated 50-0. Embarrassed, Dawei admitted that if he had Xiao's skills, he wouldn't have suffered such a crushing loss against Xiao Mo. The name piqued Xiao's interest. He tried to recall where he had heard it before. After a moment, he remembered Xiao Mo was from senior class 3. Surprised, Dawei asked if Xiao knew him. Xiao scoffed, explaining that Mrs. Li had spent an entire class talking about Xiao Mo. Not only that, but his classmates constantly mentioned him. Even outside of class, Xiao Mo's name seemed to be on everyone's lips. The more Xiao thought about it, the more irritated he became. Without another word, he tossed the ball to a friend before turning to Dawei. His expression hardened as he demanded to hear every detail about the match where Dawei had been humiliated. As school ended for the day, Xiao Mo and Wang walked out together. Xiao Mo then told Wang to go ahead without him, as he planned to wait for his girlfriend. Just then, a powerful basketball shot came flying toward them, its speed and force enough to destroy anything in its path. Without hesitation, Xiao Mo raised one hand and effortlessly blocked the ball. The one who had thrown it was Xiao. He stepped forward and addressed Xiao Mo, saying he had heard rumors about his genius abilities. Xiao Mo, unfazed, asked Xiao who he was and what he wanted. Before Xiao could respond, another student, Dawei, confidently placed a hand on Xiao's shoulder and introduced him as the ace point guard of the school team and the best player in Linhai City, Xiao Juanza. Dawei went on to say that Xiao had heard Xiao Mo was planning to compete with someone in a shooting match, so he had taken the time to. Before Dawei could finish, Xiao Mo interrupted him, saying he had no interest in competing. Without another word, he threw the ball back at them. The throw was so fast that it was about to slam into Dawei's chest, but Xiao reacted quickly and blocked it. Xiao then smirked at Xiao Mo and remarked that he was the rumored boyfriend of the school beauty, Xiaoxi. "I don't understand why she likes a guy like you," Xiao scoffed. "It seems Xiaoxi's eyesight must be a little problematic if she's fallen for such a weakling." Hearing this, Xiao Mo abruptly stopped walking. Tension filled the air as he slowly turned his head, his expression serious. Looking Xiao straight in the eye, he spoke in a firm voice, "You've successfully provoked me." A crowd began to gather, murmuring amongst themselves, unsure of what was about to happen. Someone in the crowd whispered that a challenge had been issued against the so-called god of the ball. But Xiao Mo remained calm and asked Xiao directly what he wanted. Xiao smirked and made his conditions clear. If Xiao Mo lost, he didn't want to see him hanging around in the second grade anymore, and he had to break up with Xiaoxi. "I see," Xiao Mo replied while stretching his arms. "Then we'll just have to win." Mocking Xiao, he added, "And if you lose, you'll have to become my little brother." Xiao's face darkened. "You shouldn't talk too much," he warned. "You'll regret those words." As Xiao prepared for his first shot, someone in the crowd commented that he was the top high school scorer in the province. How could anyone dare to challenge him? Xiao grinned confidently and took his first shot, the ball sailed smoothly through the net. His fans erupted in cheers, hailing him as the god of the ball. The female students were particularly enchanted by his skill. One shot after another, Xiao continued to score. By the time he had taken 10 shots, he had made 9, thrilling his supporters. A student in the crowd turned to his friend and whispered that Xiao Mo should just give up before he embarrassed himself. Xiao, brimming with arrogance, called out to Xiao Mo and threw the ball hard in his direction. "Your turn," he sneered. Xiao Mo caught the ball effortlessly. His demeanor shifted. His expression became focused, his presence commanding. Without a word, he took his first shot. The ball spun with incredible force, and as it passed through the net, it bounced right back to him. The crowd fell silent in shock. Zhao's brows furrowed, irritation flickering in his eyes. Meanwhile, the onlookers were left speechless. Xiao Mo continued shooting, each shot flawless. By the time he had scored 5 consecutive goals, but Xiao Mo remained focused, his face serious, his movements precise. Wang couldn't contain his excitement. "Not only has he scored 9 consecutive goals," he exclaimed, "but he hasn't even moved an inch." Zhao, now sweating, stared in disbelief. He muttered under his breath, questioning whether Xiao Mo was even human. The crowd, which had once cheered for Zhao, now stood in stunned silence. Someone whispered that compared to Zhao, who had to retrieve the ball after every shot, Xiao Mo seemed far more comfortable and in control. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Was Xiao Mo the real god of basketball after all? Before taking his final shot, Xiao Mo held the ball in one hand, while keeping his other hand casually tucked into his pocket. He turned to Zhao and smiled. Zhao could do nothing but watch in silence, his pride wavering as Xiao Mo prepared to seal a perfect victory. Just then, Xiao Mo's gaze shifted toward the crowd. Among them, he spotted Mr. Sun, the teacher in charge of the school's basketball team. A thought crossed Xiao Mo's mind. If he revealed too much of his skill, he might attract unnecessary attention and trouble. Making a split-second decision, he deliberately missed his last shot. Gasps rippled through the audience. No one could believe what they had just witnessed. With a fake smile, Xiao Mo turned to Zhao and casually said, "Oh, looks like we're tied." At that moment, Mr. Sun called out to him, "Xiao Mo, the director wants to see you. Head to the office." "All right, I'm on my way," Xiao Mo responded. As he walked off, he felt a wave of relief. At least Mr. Sun hadn't seen his true basketball skills. Meanwhile, Dawei let out a sigh of relief. Admitting to Zhao that he had been terrified, Xiao Mo had almost stolen the title of the god of basketball. However, Zhao calmly explained that Xiao Mo had missed a shot on purpose. He had been watching closely and noticed Xiao Mo glance at their varsity coach, Mr. Sun, just before taking the shot. It was clear that he had deliberately thrown a three-pointer and missed. Stunned, Dawei asked if Xiao Mo had done it to save his pride. Zhao nodded, remarking that a man with such composure and character was truly remarkable. From that moment on, he decided to consider Xiao Mo his brother. Xiao Mo made his way to the teacher's office, puzzled about what the director wanted from him after school hours. As he stepped inside, the director greeted him warmly and gestured for him to take a seat. Without wasting any time, the director announced that since everyone had arrived, they could begin. He addressed the group, explaining that all the students present were among the top performers in the school. However, despite their high rankings, there were always top students who failed the entrance exam each year. To counter this, the school had decided to establish a breakthrough study group, which he himself would lead. He further revealed that the school had already contacted the students' parents, and intensive training sessions would take place after school. Xiao Mo's expression darkened as irritation settled in. So this was just about a study group. However, his annoyance quickly faded when he spotted Xiaoxi waving at him. Seeing his lover among the group lifted his spirits. At least now, he had a reason to stay. Meanwhile, 2 students nearby whispered about the director's reputation. One remarked that Director Zhang had personally guided 3 top students to success in the past. The other nodded in agreement, affirming that this meant their chances of doing well were solid. At that moment, Director Zhang handed out a set of question papers, instructing everyone to take a look. He explained that the questions were a summary of patterns observed in past high-scoring students' exams. Specifically, the two areas where students were most likely to struggle. The first issue, he stated, was time management. While most students had the ability to solve all the questions, they often spent too much time on a single problem, leaving them unable to complete the entire paper. The second issue was understanding the intention behind the questions. Many students wrote lengthy answers, only to realize later that they had misunderstood the question after receiving their results. As the students examined the paper, one of them pointed out that although the questions carried low scores, they were deceptively difficult to comprehend. After reading through the paper, Xiao Mo looked up at the director and confidently stated that the questions were not difficult at all. He believed anyone could achieve a perfect score. Without hesitation, he added that he had no need to attend the training session. His words immediately irritated the two other students. One of them scoffed, calling him arrogant, while the other, a student wearing glasses, reminded him that although the director had mentioned the questions were not particularly difficult, they were extremely time-consuming. Before the situation could escalate, Xiaoxi stepped in. She reassured them that Xiao Mo was more than capable, pointing out that he had even secured first place in the competition. Her words took the two students by surprise. Then, with a smile, she casually added that the questions were not too hard for her either. At this, the student with glasses abruptly stood up, his voice rising in frustration. He argued that while Xiaoxi might be able to handle the test, since she was the top student of the school year and consistently scored 20 points ahead of the second place, this logic did not apply to Xiao Mo. He insisted that the entrance exam was completely different from a competition. Matching his energy, Xiaoxi responded in the same firm tone, declaring that if Xiao Mo said he could do it, then he would. The tension in the room thickened as they glared at each other, frustration clear in their eyes.